I do agree with a lot of the commentators online, which, when they've said that if ever we have to kneel down, we should kneel down on our own terms and for our causes. And we've seen attacks after attacks on Bangladeshi minorities, especially the Hindu community. We've seen conversions, kidnappings, killings of Pakistani Hindus. We've seen Afghanistani Hindus and Sikhs being, tortured. So there was, if ever they wanted to show a woke message, they could have actually shown a message. The Indian team should have shown a message in support, in solidarity of the Hindus in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in Bangladesh, and all the atrocities that have been, festered upon them by the regimes and by the Islamists in those countries.
Hello, good evening, namaste and welcome to Citti Media. My name is Citti and I'll be your host for today's Current Affairs show. We've all witnessed what has been happening in the World Cup. India faced their first defeat in the hands of Pakistan after winning almost every match against Pakistan in the World Cup. And to discuss this, we have Suraj Balakrishnan with us today. Surajji, namaste. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Sharan. It's a pleasure to be here again.
It's a pleasure to have you again on our show. First of all, what is your analysis? Why did it go wrong for us?
I think too much is made, especially from our domestic media, because these things happen. We've had a massive run of victories, since before many of the viewers, I'm sure, were born. So in that sense, it was bound to happen that one final defeat in terms of either a T20 or, of course, a World Cup, match would happen. We've already lost that, Champions League final with them in 2017. And this was bound to happen. And we still have a 100% record in the 50-over format. But, once you, face Pakistan on so many occasions, it's natural that towards the end of it, it does go wrong. But coming to the match, I think some of the selections were a bit baffling. I'm not sure about Varun Chakravarti. I'm not sure about, a couple of the other seamers who didn't look as fit as maybe they should have. There was clearly a bit of fatigue after the long IPL season. But overall, these things happen. Shaheen Afridi in the start of the match, he bowled really well to get out Rohit Sharma and a couple of the other, top order batsmen for India. So you got to take it up the chin because this is, World Cup cricket. This is at the very highest level. And we had a pretty slow start. We kind of recovered towards the middle of the innings and towards the end of the innings. But then the Pakistani batsman, led by, of course, Captain Babar Azam, played really well. I think there's no harm acknowledging it. This is sport. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Of course, India is expected to defeat Pakistan more often than not. I'm sure we will the next time we play as well, and the next few matches in the Super 12 of the World Cup. But these things happen. I don't think we should look at it, that, threateningly towards our own players, as some of us have in social media. These things happen, and the boys will be back.
Right. But, speaking in terms of the pitch and the ground itself, Sharjah is something like a home to the Pakistani team. And it's said that they have a natural advantage over the Indian team. But India, in its defense, has been playing in Sharjah for a while now, especially with the IPL being transferred over there. So in terms of the ground report, where do you think this went wrong?
You're right. I mean, this is de facto the home ground of Pakistan. UAE, Sharjah, this is where Pakistan plays its home games because there's a lot of security issues back home for them in Pakistan. So they naturally are very used to these, sort of wickets. And as you said, India also, a lot of the Indian players, of course, played the IPL season in Abu Dhabi and Sharjah. So they're also used to the wickets. But what really helped Sharan was one of the points which hasn't been discussed so far is the dew factor, So in that conditions, whether it's UAE or, whether it's Abu Dhabi or Sharjah, the dew factor plays a vital role. And that really helps the team batting second. And that is, of course, why Pakistan decided to, bowl first, considering they're really good, seamers. And of course, the fact that they are, they have a better time chasing. And you could see when the Indian spinners were bowling in the second innings, especially the likes of, Jadeja, Chakravarti, they found it difficult to grip the ball because of the dew factor. And that obviously helped the Pakistani batsmen. So a few things went for Pakistan, but again, these things even itself out. And I'm sure when India comes back in the next few games, we're going to perform well. We're going to make the semi-finals. And from there, it's just two matches. You win those two knockout matches, you win the World Cup. So we just have to make sure that, we get past New Zealand and we get past, this group stage and we reach the semi-finals.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Suraj. And if politics was a sport, it would probably beat the World Cup, because we've seen controversy after the other in just one match alone. And I hope we can address some of these issues. And we would really like to know what you think about these. Starting with, taking a knee for the Black Lives Matters movement. Was this actually necessary? Is what a lot of people are asking.
Yeah, I mean, politics is a $1 million business in India, whether it's cricket, whether it's politics, whether it's movies, whether it is, theater, everything, whether it's food habits, politics always, gets involved in this country, and that's not going to go away anytime soon. So there was a lot of confusion regarding this kneeling factor, because initially it was, obviously the players got a lot of, trolling from the fans, both from the left and the right for different reasons. The right, of course, because, why won't you, kneel for Bangladeshi Hindus and Hindu minorities, which is a very valid point. And the left, of course, and the Islamists, of course, mentioned about, why don't you kneel against the Muslim atrocities that's happening there? But eventually, I think we got a fair amount of clarification from the BCCI, from the players, that it was a team management that asked them to do it. And then after that, it was mentioned that the team management asked them to do it because the ICC asked all the players to do it. And of course, the Pakistani players refused to kneel down. They just put their hands on their chest, on their heart, and just sort of express solidarity in that manner. But yeah, I mean, it's supposedly an instruction from the ICC, but considering the amount of influence that the BCCI actually have, if they wanted, they could have said we won't do it, or they could have put their foot down and said this is not for us.
Yes.
So it's one of those things. But I do agree with a lot of the commentators online, which when they've said that if ever we have to kneel down, we should kneel down on our own terms and for our causes. And we've seen attacks after attacks on Bangladeshi minorities, especially the Hindu community. We've seen conversions, kidnappings, killings of Pakistani Hindus. We've seen Afghanistani Hindus and Sikhs being, tortured. So there was, if ever they wanted to show a woke message, they could have actually shown a message. The Indian team should have shown a message in support, in solidarity of the Hindus in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in Bangladesh, and all the atrocities that have been, festered upon them by the regimes and by the Islamists in those countries.
That's a very fair point, Suraj. Very well noted. Thank you for that. One more point that is being discussed is that a few students, Kashmiri students in Punjab, were celebrating Pakistan's victory. Now, in their defense, what they say is that, suppose we were cheering for Bangladesh or New Zealand or Australia for that matter, nobody would have had a problem. Now, do you concur with these people?
Well, I don't think nobody would have had a problem. There would be, eyebrows raised definitely if you support any other team vis-a-vis India. I mean, no one is saying that you can't support a Bangladesh against Australia, or you can't support, maybe a New Zealand against South Africa. We all have our choices. But then, when we look at the whole India-Pakistan match, and the history along with that, the fact that a new country was formed in 47 only and only on the basis of religion, as envisioned by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. So there are going to be undertones, there are going to be political, issues and eyebrows raised. And the students, I'm sure they're not fools. They would have been fully aware of it, especially if, they're doing it in a hostel or, in a university campus where naturally eyes are upon them. Whether it is Punjab, whether it is Uttar Pradesh, whether it's Maharashtra, whether it's Srinagar itself. So in that sense, the students should have known better, I guess. If they were really happy, they could have, suppressed a bit of emotions the way, some people, I guess, do in these sort of situations. And they could have, maybe smiled and cheered on in a very dignified manner. But they obviously wanted to make a hue and show of it from what reports we've been gathering. And when you, start celebrating a Pakistani victory over India, when emotions are running high in this country, especially when it comes to India-Pakistan cricket matches, naturally there's going to be a reaction to it. And, the students supposedly from Haryana, Bihar, UP barged in, and there was a scuffle. But again, some people could say it's a personal choice. But then, if we get into those aspects, the whole issue of, different articles of a constitution come into play. Can you really desecrate a religious book? Can you, speak against a certain religion? There will be consequences. This is the way our country is. Unfortunately, we don't practice secularism the way France practices it, in terms of complete separation from the from, of the state, from the religion. In our case, secularism means respecting all religions, respecting sentiments. That's the way, for better or worse, the whole consensus, Nehruvian consensus, has followed since 47. So in that sense, when you celebrate a Pakistani victory over India, there is naturally going to be consequences. And the students should have known better.
Absolutely. And with the Pakistan's interior minister commenting that, this win of theirs is a victory for Islam, things have only opened up a different sphere of debate in that sense. What do you think about Mohammad Shami's controversy? Because he's been one of the people who was crucial for our victory in World Cup 2019 in many of the matches, especially against Afghanistan, if I have to give an example. And now, to be very honest, it seems like there is a fake narrative which has been created, because we couldn't find anything off the internet that actually cited or attributed these threats to Mohammad Shami.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've answered, your question pretty well there. In terms of Mohammad Shami, he has been a tremendous bowler for India. He has done very well, exceedingly well in different conditions, whether it's at home, whether it's away from home, in places like, in Australia, in England. He's been a great bowler. He's got pace, he's got swing, he's got rhythm. He's been a great asset. And no one is taking away Shami's patriotism or Shami's love for the country or Shami's performances, most importantly, with the Indian team jersey. But what is baffling, me, and I'm sure baffling many of your audiences members as well, is where is that, specific targeting of Mohammad Shami? From what I could see online, including from myself, Virat Kohli's captaincy was a question mark. There were question marks on Ravi Shastri in the team management selection. Right. There were question marks on Rohit Sharma getting out so early. There were question marks on the spinners not being as effective. There were question marks on the top 3-4 batting lineup. There were question marks, of course, on the pace bowlers as well. So the entire team was criticized. This entire fake manufactured narrative that Mohammad Shami is, singularly being targeted. I mean, it is a bunch of bollocks. It's just not true. The entire team was targeted, and rightly so. Because when I say rightly so, I don't mean like from the vicious attacks that some people have mentioned on social media, but the team was criticized, and as fans, as pundits, as experts of the game, and 1.3 billion people in this country are experts of cricket. People have a right to criticize on social media, because that is what people will do. But at the same time, to say that Mohammad Shami was the only cricketer, the only player in the Indian team to be targeted, that is absolute nonsense. That wasn't the case. Right. I mean, we both are on Twitter. I'm sure if you just go on Twitter and check the tweets, there was no verified or any really popular handle which actually went against Shami on that day. It is just a bunch of supposedly comments on his Insta page, which is just blown out of proportion. Right. It's just absolute making something out of nothing.
You're right, and in that sense, we were talking about woke culture and how it's affecting our sportsmen as well. Without taking any names, let me say this: a few of our representatives, a few of our Indian cricketers have represented and misattributed Hindu festivities, for which many in the Indian ecosystem are very upset about. Many Hindus are very upset about. How do you see this entire thing? Is it their independent choice to do this, or are they being hypocrites by doing this?
I mean, in terms of the cricketers, it's a difficult one, because some of the same cricketers were, if you remember, not too long ago, they were criticized for standing up for India in terms of, not wanting anybody else to interfere in the domestic affairs of our country, as they rightly did. So they were criticized by the opposite side for that. And now, of course, they're criticized, from the Hindutva side because of their tweets and their, messages on social media. So, it's a difficult one, because in some cases, no matter what they do, they'll be targeted. I think in this case, we have to, give the benefit of the doubt to the cricketers or to the celebrities, because ultimately, they are in a difficult position, because no matter what they say, some people are targeting them. At the same time, if they look at, the facts, if they look at the evidence as opposed to the emotions, which the left often does without substance, that would have, done themselves a huge favor. That would have done their own audience, their followers, a big favor, because there was no evidence of any targeted assault or targeted hounding of Mohammad Shami in any way. All the cricketers, the entire Indian team as Team India was criticized, and rightfully so, because they had a below par performance. They had a below par day on the pitch, which happens. So why, these cricketers started tweeting about, Mohammad Shami specifically is, I have no idea. It could be a paid agenda. I don't know. It could be, something that the PR team told them to do. It could be their social media managers tweeting about it for them. But it's unfortunate. And I think let's leave it at that because, some of these celebrities can be targeted no matter what they do. Mm-hmm. And some of them are, of course, we've seen them live on the pitch many years back. They are our heroes. They are gods for many of us. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt because, they're cricketers, they're heroes, and they'll always be soft targets.
Right. You're right. And, drawing your attention back to the game and the World Cup itself, how do you think India's chances are going forward, and who are you placing your bets on as the winners of this World Cup?
Well, New Zealand, of course, defeated India in the World Test Championship final, very recently. They also defeated India in the World Cup semi-finals in 2019.
Right.
So New Zealand of late has a upper hand over India. But if you, look at it objectively, India does have a better team in terms of the T20 format against New Zealand. We have some great power hitters. We have some, in Jasprit Bumrah, we have, in my opinion, the best fast bowler in the world. We have some great batters, at the top. So we have a very, very good, well-balanced team. And I'm sure we will get the better of New Zealand as well. And if we defeat New Zealand, I don't see any other team preventing us from reaching the semi-finals. So it's the New Zealand fixture is going to be very, very important. If we can overcome New Zealand, then there are very good chances, very high chances of us reaching the semi-finals. And once you reach the semi-finals, it's anyone's game. There are 4 teams. It's all on that day. There could be some dew factor. There could be some, swinging conditions. The team that's batting second could have a big advantage. In some cases, the team that's batting first could have a big advantage because, the spin factor might come into play. So it all depends on the conditions of, of that particular day, possible injuries, possible, fatigue factor, and it could be anyone's game. So I think if India reaches semifinals, we have as good a chance as anyone in the competition.
Right. One more team that is performing spectacularly well is Afghanistan. Do you think Afghanistan has a good chance of entering the semis? It's too early to say anything, but from based on what their performance has been so far, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Afghanistan is a revelation, isn't it? They had their old national anthem, and it was very emotional scenes in terms of Rashid Khan, in terms of Mohammad Nami, in terms of all these, the captain, of course. They were really emotional about it, and they had tears in their eyes, and it was a great feeling. After the barbaric, regime of the Taliban coming into play, and the former Vice President Amrullah Saleh also, tweeted about it. It was very emotional scenes, but they had a very good opener against Scotland. But I think it's too early, too premature to kind of bet on them as early as this, because they are in a tough group. They have some very tough games coming up. And the winner was Scotland in the opening game was fantastic because they played really well. They, their all-rounders, the spinners bowled really well. But it's not going to be easy because, you just have 4 teams to qualify for the semis. You have the likes of India, Pakistan now, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, England, West Indies. There are a lot of teams which have a, better squad than Afghanistan, have a better chance than Afghanistan. Bangladesh too, So it's not going to be easy in their group. But I wouldn't rule them out yet, but it's going to be very tough.
Right. We'll see how the game goes ahead, and hopefully you can join us for another conversation as soon as we enter, we are nearing to the end of the World Cup, and hopefully we'll get more insights from you from then.
Let's hope that India reaches the semi-finals.
Absolutely.
For a start.
Thank you so much, Suraj, for joining us today. It was a very nice conversation with you, very insightful, and hopefully we can have this conversation sometime soon.
Absolutely, Sharan. Pleasure is all mine, and hope everyone enjoyed the conversation. Let's hope that there's good news for India on the cricketing front in the coming days.
Absolutely. Viewers, please do like, share, and subscribe to Citti Media. We will be bringing you more updates from the World Cup. Until then, this is your host, Sharan Citti, signing off.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.